All right, we should be live and alive. Gonna be cutting stuff up for YouTube, but today is an important day. I'm excited. We are going to be interviewing two strike captains for the SAG-AFTRA ongoing voice actor strike. I'm gonna play this video in the background because we're going to be calling them. We're going to be calling them by the time this ends.
At Warner Brothers here in Los Angeles,
but
and we are picketing against.
I wanted to mention these people are going to be coming in. What's up, My Day? My Day is sweaty armpits. Is that your name? Goodness gracious, I love it. I'm not going to be talking with chat for while the. Oh, it's masked? You changed your name? Oh my god, amazing. I just wanted to let everyone know that I'm not going to be talking with chat while the interview is going on, and I gotta relay that information now and let all of you guys know.
Fortnite and more.
They come to us.
Should probably pin that as well.
And what they look like and what they do, and we're gonna show them.
It's temporary.
They're striking 10 video game studios and production companies because after 2 years of contract negotiations, they still can't agree on artificial intelligence protections.
A very small number of very large corporations are holding the entire industry hostage.
I was Donna Beneviento in Resident Evil Village. I did most of the body capture for the women in Immortals of Avium. I am the Rancor in Star Wars Vader Immortal, so if you played that, you definitely had to kill me. So when I'm crawling around on the ground for 8 hours a day, creating these monsters that you have to fight, they are telling me that I am not a performer, that all I am is data. So what they intend to do is take our data, make a model out of it, and then they use that model instead of us.
The basic protections we're looking for are when they use any kind of digital replication of a performer's voice, their face, their movement, that they have the right to say yes or no to that, and they have the right to be compensated for that.
Imagine a situation where there's an avatar of you that can say things that you never consented to say and that you're never compensated for. That's a really dangerous environment, not only for performers, but for the general public at large.
I also worry that AI could make it where existing, talented, established artists have to compete against their own digital replica for work.
You come to me, you tell me what you intend to do, you get my permission, you pay me. That's fair, it allows the use of this tool, it's reasonable, it's feasible. We have employers signing those agreements that have those terms exactly as they are for much, much lower budgets than the folks like here.
In terms of the compensation factors, we haven't even really fully explored that because they haven't agreed to the consent provisions yet for all of the performers that we need to. So, from their point of view, if they don't need to get consent, they don't have to compensate.
One day longer, one day stronger! Woo! Thank you. I'm a performance capture artist. I work in video games doing flips and tricks and getting beaten up and all the fun stuff.
Great thing about what we do is that a lot of actors, a lot of performers can come together to create a perfect character. So that being said, I had a hand in these characters. Spider-Man, Venom, Rhino, Vulture, Electro, Shocker, Scorpion, Aunt May. Every single civilian on the ground level, every single goon you beat up, I have had a hand in bringing those people to life.
Being able to do a backflip is one thing. Being able to do a backflip on command is another thing. Being able to do a backflip on command in different ways, landing on a certain object, going across a gap, augmenting the way I do my tricks to make it look like somebody who has just gotten superpowers for the first time. We aren't even saying that these companies can't use AI. What we're asking for is that if they are going to use me, that I get paid for it.
The AAA company video games make so much money that it dwarfs TV, film, and music
3 p.m.
combined. And we are just asking for enough to cover our rent.
A report in March by the game engine company Unity found that 62% of video game studios were already using AI, largely for world building, prototyping, and coding. 46% of engineers are also starting to use it for character animation.
This fight isn't against the people that we work with day in and day out. It's not the animators, it's not the directors, it's not the people that we make these genuine connections with making these beautiful games. It's the people who want to sit in an office and count their dollar bills that want to tell you what you do and assign the value of what you do.
The most frustrating aspect of this negotiation, not just for us, but for everybody in general, is the lack of respect that's shown to a human being by a corporation. We won AI protections in TV theatrical. We refined them in animation. We have to build upon them in interactive because AI protections aren't going to reach through to everyone.
It could very well potentially replace us. And I don't say us, the entertainment union, I mean us, labor, workers. We're the canary in the coal mine. We have to fight it so that the next union who feels threatened by it, they have a framework to stand on.
We have to win this fight to set the precedent for the workforce at large.
And we'll be out here doing this until we have a fair contract.
And this came out 7 months ago, by the way, just to give you guys a perspective on how long they've been fighting. But all right, they are ready. I'm going to give them a call. A little nervous, but hopefully everything goes all right. I've got check this out. Little, we got a new little, what do you call this? A scene that in OBS that their webcams are going to be up there. I've got questions up at the top that I will be going through as the interview goes on. I already pinned it in chat, but I'm not going to be looking at chat at all. I'm going to be focusing on them while the interview is ongoing. So just to let you guys all know, that's how that's going to be going on. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give them a call. Here we go.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey. One
Hello.
sec. All right, there we go. Should be good. Today, we've got a very special short stream planned for you all. I've got some incredible guests on the broadcast. I'm joined by Torian Brackett, aka TB, and Josh Sterling, who are both voice actors, members of the SAG-AFTRA Union, and they are strike captains themselves. I'm very honored that they chose to take the time out of their busy schedules to be here because we are, of course, going to be talking about the ongoing SAG-AFTRA strike, what it's about, the importance of unions, and the collective bargaining agreements themselves, and some more fine print details regarding the voice actors, regarding studios, game companies, and the relationships. So to kick things off, TB, since you were the one who initially reached out to me to organize this whole thing, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, what you do, and Josh, you can do so right afterwards.
Yeah, hey
Sounds
everybody.
good.
My name is Torian Brackett. I've been a voice actor since around 2020. I was doing a lot of musical theater in my hometown back in New York before the pandemic kind of shut everything down. Pivoted into VO. It was a very lovely switch for me. That's what got me out to LA. I got here top of 2023, and within like 4 or 5 months, I was marching around Disney for the TV theatrical strike that summer, and it's kind of been like labor action ever since because video games went on strike last July. So it's been a very busy time. I've been learning a lot about how our union works, what they offer to members, and just, collective organizing as a whole. So I've been very excited to be learning more about that, and that's brought me here today with you guys.
Yes, and I'm Josh Sterling. I'm a voice actor, audio engineer, podcaster. I am a multi-hyphenate. I've been an actor for pretty much most of my life. I moved to LA in 2009 on a Greyhound bus to be an actor, and voiceover has been my focus over the past 5 years, and I've worked on all sorts of fun games. I love what I do. As a strike captain, this has been in my involvement in SAG-AFTRA as a captain, as an organizer, as somebody who as a part of the team that runs Game Performance Matters. This strike has been I was marching in the one previously for TV theatrical, and for the writer's strike, but this one could say I've been super, super involved from day one. So, and I do want to say, right at the get-go, we are not official representatives of SAG-AFTRA. We are both
Members,
dedicated members. Yeah, members, volunteers, knowledgeable and passionate about this. So we find it's part of our duty to come and talk to people and answer questions and all that kind of stuff. But we just want to make sure that we say that.
Definitely important. All right. Awesome. I'd just like to thank you all both again for being here. I've never done anything like this before. My streams are usually just me playing video games and yapping it up with chat, but I noticed a couple different live service games that I play started to get affected by the strike, namely the Hoyoverse games like Honkai Star Rail and Zenless Zone Zero, and then also even Destiny 2 as of late. So as a gamer experiencing this, many, I imagine, just see that their favorite characters are mute and have subtitles at the bottom of the screen reading out their lines and wonder what the hell is going on. I think most with access to social media at this point have at least realized it's because of an ongoing strike, but many don't know exactly what it means or why it's gone on for so long. And especially recently, since this strike has been going on for a little over half a year now, people are trying to answer their own questions as to what is going on. And this is where a lot of rumors and misinformation get started to be spread around. So, being someone who grew up in a union family myself and has a pretty good idea of how strikes and collective bargaining agreements work, I wanted to do some good and have you guys, the actual workers who are striking, come on the broadcast, explain the whole process, and hopefully add some clarity and maybe put some of those rumors flying around to bed. Now, the way I've organized this interview, I'm just going to be asking you guys some simple questions that the audience may already have the answers to, but I wanted to ask them anyway just to establish the basics. And then afterwards, I've got a list of questions from my own community who have been following and paying close attention to the strike, and some of them may have heard a couple of these rumors flying around on YouTube, Twitter, and Reddit, and expect those questions to be the more fundamental core detail ones that most people probably don't have the answers to. And of course, who better to ask than the people who are directly involved, right? So with all of that out of the way, let's get started with the simple stuff. So the first simple question is going to be, what is the SAG-AFTRA union and what are they currently striking for?
Yeah, I will take that. Very simply, SAG-AFTRA is a labor union. To get down to the nitty-gritty, it's a labor union that represents, I'm just going to put the number, approximately 160,000. It's everything from actors, announcers, broadcast journalists, dancers, DJs, news writers, news editors, program hosts, puppeteers, recording artists, singers, stunt performers, voiceover artists, and other media professionals. I know recently intimacy coordinators were added to the list, and I know that there's more, I believe, to be added in the future. What we're striking for currently is for the video game strike, the IMA agreement. And the main, there's little things on there that we've kind of moved past, but the main sticking point is AI protections. Enforceable AI protections that includes transparency, compensation, and really the ability to say yes or no. Yeah. That's like the very simple summary of what we're striking for.
Gotcha. And I know you mentioned stunt performers and stuff like that. The AI protections involve a lot of stuff that even surprised me initially. We watched the More Perfect Union video right before this, but even AI can even go after 3D motion capture performers, which surprised me. Yeah. And so the protections cover like a wide variety of things, right?
Yeah, it's definitely, yeah.
A lot of people don't know that, with bargaining, you have a lot of back and forth with these companies, and one of their reserved positions, kind of the thing that they hold true on their side, is that movement, stunts, all that stuff is considered data and not performance. So even when you're going in and being a whole other character and getting in them body and soul, it's just data to them. So they don't need to be covered by this contract, which is obviously an insane thing for our movement performers to hear.
Well, even from a voiceover standpoint, they've said some of the employers higher ups have stated that voice acting is not acting. They're not taking away jobs because it's not acting. So as who has been a long time gamer and as an actor, I'm like, that's not true.
Absolutely.
That is very much not true.
All right. Well, second question, now that we got the basic out of the way, what exactly is a collective bargaining agreement and how does that whole process work?
So collective bargaining is something that we do for our major contracts on different kind of genres of the industry. So you've got TV theatrical, you've got commercials, you've got animation, and you've got interactive. Those are our four main collectively bargained agreements. We go through this whole process of meeting with the membership to talk about, how do you feel about the contract? How do you feel about your work days? Is anything annoying during that time that you want to change as we go into our next cycle of negotiations? They bring that to the employers, they negotiate, hopefully without a strike. They bring it back to the membership to vote on, which is called ratification. And then boom, we've got another contract for the next 3 years. I think typically it's a 3-year cycle between negotiations. So those agreements are collectively bargained because everybody's involved.
And to add to that, that's something I think not a lot of people realize is that collective bargaining agreements, as as it says, is they're collective. Everyone's involved and they vote on it. And a lot of times that can take a long time because it goes back and forth. If one contract gets denied, then it has to come back and the workers themselves vote on it to say we want to push that again and we're going to continue striking, or we can maybe rethink what we voted on before, right?
Yeah, there's always a possibility that, the membership does not accept what's been brought to them, and we go and try again. Yeah.
Hmm.
If I may make a kind of a silly analogy for all of us D&Ders, have you ever tried to make an appointment or try to make a meeting with your team, and like you go back and forth and it might be just 6 people? How long it takes just to pick one day?
Yeah.
Imagine timesing that by thousands,
Hmm.
but also like thinking about what if money was involved?
Yeah.
So it's like just imagine how like oh, we're never gonna
Chaotic
meet
that
for
is.
D&D.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. All right. Well, the next one is, what exactly is a strike captain and what responsibilities are you guys in charge of?
Yeah, strike captains are, I like to think of us as minions. Because SAG-AFTRA has staff. It's not just the volunteers. SAG-AFTRA has staff that they work to organize. These are people that went to college for organizing. Like they know what needs to happen, and labor action requires people. And oftentimes those teams can be very small and they need help. They need people to not only just help them systematically on, one example is like for pickets. Oftentimes strike captains will be there early with them and be the people in the vest and calling out with the loudspeakers and keeping things organized and trying to help. When it's not a picket, we're connecting with our community and we're staying in the know, so to speak, or really paying attention to the pulse and figuring out like, oh, okay, this is where we're at. Okay. And there's also kind of an aspect of it where kind of like Big Brother, kind of where you're just like the Big Brother program where you kind of have your friends. We have our friends in the community, no matter their status, whether they're union, non-union, FICO, or whatever. We're all voice actors in this community, and a strike captain can be a resource that people can reach out to and be like, hey, what does this mean? Or, hey, when's the next picket? Or that kind of stuff, trying to educate.
Hmm. And for some strikes, like trade union strikes in particular, and I'm genuinely asking this question because I don't know, is there are the strike captains usually the guys that people go to for questions via media or just any person of the public that has a question about the strike? Because I've noticed at some strikes, like they will tell the strikers to not answer media questions and to send them to someone. I figure that's probably the strike captain, right?
Yeah. Well, because not always, because SAG-AFTRA, again, like I said, they have staff. They have a communications department, and they guide and they might even make sure that they pay attention to the people that represent. Because at the end of the day, when you have an organization and you have something that is so heated like this particular strike is, and like you even mentioned yourself, you can skim the internet and get 10 different opinions. It's very important that an organization has one defined path, so to speak, or a message that they are expressing. And so sometimes, yes, sometimes as captains, we are asked to, hey, could you talk to this person? Could you? But it's not always yeah, definitely you.
Gotcha.
Like strike captains, that's what they do. Some strike captains aren't comfortable with talking to people with press. And also, there are certain things that SAG-AFTRA cannot say, even just legally.
Okay.
Just the way that a strike works, the way that negotiations work. People don't know that there are rules to negotiations. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Torian, did you have anything to add to that one in particular?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, Josh and I have done a couple of press interviews, but only ever like on the picket line. I think outside of that, they're really reaching out to our negotiating committee as far
Mm-hmm.
as who's talking to the general public about really getting out there what we're fighting for. But sometimes if they want to get a wider range of people, they'll tap into the strike captains as well. It all depends.
Gotcha. Okay. That was a good one. Question 4 is, what have been the most challenging aspects of this strike in particular? We know it's been going on for 7 months now, so I think around 7 months. Has it been 8 at this point?
We're coming up on 8, I
8. That's a
think.
Yeah, it's
long
very
time.
near. Yeah.
Okay. So
I think
what have been the
tomorrow
most
it'll be 8.
challenging things? Really? Oh boy.
Yeah, I think we
Oh
called it on
no.
July 24th. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Gotcha.
It's
Well,
been
what?
84 years.
So what have been the most
The
challenging
challenge,
aspects?
yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's definitely been trying to make sure that people are all on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
I think it can be very difficult to fight towards something when you're not all playing with the same deck of cards. And so dealing with, the general public having their opinions about actors in general and learning a little bit more about what video game performers do specifically and how that relates to artificial intelligence. There's been a ramp up, especially at the beginning of the strike, of trying to like educate people on what it is we do, how much money we actually make, and things
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
that. But then on the other side, there's also our own membership sometimes, making sure we're all clear on what it is that's going on. So that education effort and the challenges of getting that situated so that we can have productive conversations,
Mm-hmm.
that has been an interesting challenge for
Yeah,
me.
for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's easy not to. I mean, it's easy to, because of course we have our feelings about
Mhm.
this. There's a reason why we are on the front line. There's a level of care that we bring to this, and that, just like Torian said, that education piece has been from day one, and that's why, I mean, shameless plug, that's why Game Performance Matters is so important to us specifically, is because it's the platform that we use to educate, and again, to drive this home. It doesn't matter, our community as a whole, whether you're union, non-union, FICOR, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
To educate how this works.
Mm-hmm.
What does a union mean? Like the quickest way for something to get out of hand is miseducation
Yeah,
and
for sure.
misinformation that spreads. I mean, you've probably seen them yourselves. These
Mhm.
Reddit threads that are viral, that have thousands of comments, and it's sometimes you have to, like, I'm sure as a content creator, I'm a fellow content creator, there comes a point where you just can't read the comments.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, I always say, it's like arguing with a drunk person or arguing with a wall. It's like some people are devoted to the way that they see it, and sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you have to let it go. You can
Mm-hmm.
only do what you can.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow. Yeah, that was also a great answer. All right, so now we are into the actual community ones. So that was it for the more basic laying the groundwork questions. Now we're going to transition into some of the community ones. These ones are going to be a lot harder. I feel like I know the answer to some of them, but of course, since we have the privilege of having you two gentlemen on, we can actually get into the fine print details for this stuff. So the first community question that was sent in for you guys is, the AI protections definitely seem to be at the forefront of this strike. However, there are some recording studios out there that already have AI protections in their non-union contracts. Can you explain what else the strike and SAG-AFTRA union are fighting for, and why just the AI protections alone from a recording studio aren't enough?
yeah, I'm actually going to take this because I'm very passionate about it. And the reason why I am, because I have a personal opinion about this, is because I have, in the past, I have been sued. I have been in a legal battle, wrongly. Let me just state that. I was sued wrongly. But I learned a lot about the legal process. And so when you have recording studios, I love it. I love it that there are individual companies, including recording studios, even casting directors, that have their own, LLCs or whatever, that have their own agreements that have stated that they have strong AI protections. That is, I mean, it warms my heart. I love that. That means that they do support they support humans voicing these roles and human creativity. The issue with that, and the reason why a SAG-AFTRA agreement is so important, is enforceable AI protections. And the reason why this is important is because, let's say, I'm just going to throw out, let's say Studio X. They're like, hey, we have great AI protections, and you read their clauses, and you're like, yeah, those are really great AI protections. The thing is that a studio doesn't own the media. It doesn't own the audio that was recorded. It doesn't own the game. It is merely a piece of the puzzle. I mean, there are a lot of pieces that create a video game, a lot, and a lot of people, a lot of cooks in the kitchen. And so when a studio says that they have AI protections, what I hear is that means that they personally, that studio, will not do anything AI related. They cannot control whether, I'll throw out them, Hoyo, Blizzard, EA. They can't control what those companies do with those files after they leave their studio. That agreement is only with the recording studio. And so past that, it gets a little tricky. They can't make those kinds of agreements. Now, if it's a game that is on a union contract, let's say, for example, there's a union contract and it has AI protections in it, and something happens. Somebody does something they weren't supposed to do. Well, that actor now, because of the dues that they pay to our union, they now have basically lawyers waiting in the wings, ready. And bringing back my personal legal experience, legal battle is expensive and time consuming. My legal battle went on for a little over 5 years. And every little step that you take, even if you call your lawyer to clarify this piece of paperwork that you got, to ask a simple question, to get your appointment, to go to trial, whatever, that's money. Those are hours. And I personally, I don't have the money to sue Activision. I don't know very many people that do. Most people don't have the money to sue Disney, to sue any of these companies that are holding strong. And so that's why this is so important, is that the AI protections from a recording studio, thank you so much to those that have said and been vocal about that. It's what happens later. It's what happens afterwards. And we can't accept just trust us. We can't, this is one of those times in life where you can't accept a handshake agreement. Because that's essentially what it is. Thank you so much. We've both put down on paper that we agree between the two of us. Handshake agreement. After these files leave, no idea. So it's very important to have agreements set that they can be enforced with resources that are available to union members.
Absolutely.
Was that the answer? Did I answer the question?
That was perfect. Yeah. And I even had in my notes that I wanted to mention the lawyers, because that's how I understood it, basically, was that we can have a contract with a studio that says that they're going to give us
Anything
AI
you want.
protections. Anything really. But if that contract is broken in any way, shape, or form, typically, if you don't have a union backing you, you're going to have to pay out of pocket to try to go after them breaking that contract, whereas the union has lawyers that will fight for you, and that's part of why you pay union dues, right?
Yeah, to continue your point a little bit, if you look up all unions, all labor unions, all labor unions have some sort of due payment structure, because at the end of the day, a labor union is an organization, and you cannot expect, I'll just use you as an example, as a fellow content creator. That's a job in itself. The amount of hours that it takes to create things, to do things. Imagine at the labor action level of organizing lots and lots of people trying to get things done. That is a lot of time, and resources need to be spent towards that. And SAG-AFTRA didn't make up dues. We didn't create that system. We didn't even create the Taft-Hartley system.
Yeah.
That's a federal thing. So we're getting ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
you mentioned Hoyoverse, and I think another thing that people might not be aware of is, if you were so bold as to take on a corporation by yourself, you're obligated to handle that legal battle in the country that the contract was drafted in. So if you signed a contract with Hoyo and you later want to sue them, you're dealing with those laws, not the US ones. And not every country is, very favorable to individuals when it comes to litigation. So that's another thing to keep in mind when, it comes to enforceable AI protections. You have to be able to take that all the way on your own, without a union contract behind you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another great point. All right, if we are done with that one, though, we can move on to the next. So the next community question I have for you both is: if the strike is for AI protections, why have I heard that SAG-AFTRA made deals with AI companies?
Yeah, we did. Is the short answer, but to break that down, we're at a point in the world in 2025 where this technology is being used. It is being utilized. Companies want to see what they can do with it. They want to see where it goes. And as a union, SAG-AFTRA cannot dictate how a company runs its business. They cannot dictate what tools they use to make their product. What we can tell them is how they're going to engage with us when they, endeavor to work with us. These are the rules of how you work with an actor, not these are the tools you can use to make your product. So, with how ravenous companies are about this new technology, we've set out to create guidelines, to create guardrails, to create a safe lane for our actors to engage with these companies with what they want to do. And so to that end, there are companies like Replica, companies like Etherbox, Narrative, who have, claimed to be actor first, prioritizing actor agency. And so SAG-AFTRA has worked long and hard on creating contracts with these companies so that there are kind of options in place for actors who might otherwise be curious about how this works, if they were to go down that road. We have to accommodate all of our members, including the ones who might, if it's safe, maybe I'll think about it. So that's kind of where that comes from. And it's the same
There
thing
are
we're
ethical
doing.
usages. Sorry, there are
Yeah.
ethical uses of, and I was talking to a game dev student who was talking about his program. He had a whole class that was devoted to the ethical use of AI, even for them. And so these kinds of systems, like Narrative, like Ethervox, they provide a route for an ethical use where we're involved. I think, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's unprecedented stuff, and so someone has to be the
yeah.
first in how we get there.
Would it be fair to say the deals that SAG-AFTRA made with the AI companies is really just trying to get ahead of the game and trying to crack down on certain usages of AI before it does get out of control? Is that like mainly what the deals were for?
I think the unfortunate answer is it's already out of control.
Yeah.
Depending on where you look, things at the consumer level are already pretty good. Things at the corporate level, like what our bargaining partners are capable of, that's dangerous and scary.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so they're already capable of doing it, but we've already built into our kind of negotiating rules that AI and the whole discussion of it, it's a mandatory subject of bargaining. And what that means is, as much as they can do these things when it comes to our work, they cannot until we say yes, until we allow them to, which 8 months on strike, we're not saying yes. So
Yeah.
that little clause right there is very helpful because they can do quite a bit already.
Mhm. Gotcha. Yeah, that was a great answer. Next one we have is: how does SAG-AFTRA provide support for their union members during a strike? If voice work is their main source of income and they can't work, does the union provide support to their members in need?
Yes, I actually was hoping to link something to you
Mhm.
in the Discord here because the answer to that is like strikes are painful, right?
Mhm.
Across the board, to members, to the companies, to people who are just trying to like start their careers. Having to put that work on hold hurts. 8 months in, it hurts. But
Having
it's
to say
something
no
that,
to something it hurts. It's a lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we understand this at the time. Like, we called in we asked for an authorization of, the negotiating committee basically asked the membership, like, are you willing to go down this road? We've been negotiating. The contract has been expired since 2022. Do you want to go down this road? And it was an overwhelming yes. So we all knew that it was going to be kind of a long haul, especially just looking at the TV theatrical strike. But that doesn't mean that people aren't hurting. And so there are resources for members and even just actors in general, that things that come from the union, things that come from outside the union that people can turn to. And so I had linked that something that GPM had kind of put together, a compilation of things that people can turn to: the Entertainment Community Fund, the SAG-AFTRA Credit Union, Motion Picture and Television Fund. There are a lot of financial resources that people can utilize during a tough time like this, because it's kind of an existential threat, the AI situation. If we don't hold the line the way we need to, it's very possible our next jobs could be our last, because they've got the data, they can do whatever they want with it and never pay us. So being able to sustain the membership through a difficult time like this is very important. And so there are resources available to that end.
And is this public information? Can I put this in or give this to my own community? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, people should share that if they know an actor who's struggling, because not everybody necessarily knows the resources available to them. So it's something that really should be spread around more.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'll definitely link that in the description of this VOD when it goes live. All right. Well, that was perfect. Josh, did you have anything you wanted to add to that one before we move on?
No, that document says it all.
All right, perfect. Next question we have is, what exactly is the SAG-AFTRA interim agreement? Am I saying that right? Interim?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's essentially it's essentially like the agreement for now, until we can negotiate,
move on,
and not only negotiate to something that both that everybody's happy with, but then ratify. It's our agreement as we stand it now, basing it off what it is that we're asking for. And the second part of your question, I'm so sorry that I just
no, you're fine. You're absolutely fine.
Trailed right over. It doesn't mean that they are required to only make union contract projects in the future. No, it doesn't. If they become a term signatory, then yes, there's a term for which all of their games will be. But oftentimes, it's important to, like, when you say company, there's also signatories. Like, some companies are like, they're registered as signatories, and it's like, oh, this company wants to do their games union, this company does not want to. So it's like, it's kind of like, it just depends on what kind of agreement they enter into. Because
a signatory is, just who is responsible for holding to what's in the contract. So you could have a game developer that acts as their own signatory. A lot of what game developer studios will do is, like, they want to focus on making their games, so they'll hire a studio or some other entity to be the signatory that kind of acts as the middleman between them and the union.
Okay.
Yes.
And this stuff's a lot more complex than like what I'm used to, because I'm familiar with the trade unions in particular. I'm in the IBEW, the International Electrical Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and a lot of our contracts are just between a contractor and then the union, the contractor, and then that's it. Whereas with the voice work, it seems like you've got the game companies, you've got the recording studios, and then the signatory, what you just described. That's all. Yeah, the publisher. That's all. That is so much more complex than I originally thought.
And the scope of development is so much longer than just like a couple weeks on an electrician job.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, did we cover that one pretty well, you think?
Yeah, I think so. It's a pretty straightforward kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just something to use in the interim. We want our members to work. We want developers to be able to make games. And so while the bargaining partners are holding the entire industry hostage.
Mhm.
We want to give people the chance to get right back to work. And so our
Mhm.
interim agreements have exactly what we want in them. And over 170 different titles agree that those asks are reasonable. So
Mhm.
And this
here we
is,
are.
and to like even to go further, there's multiple types of interim agreements that we have currently, because like Torian said, I think there's a misconception that people think that SAG just wants to say no, and really we want to say yes.
Mhm.
There's the tiered budget agreements. Budget is no longer a reason. That used to be a reason for not to be able to work with union actors. That's no longer. There's the independent localization agreement. There's now a student agreement, a game jam agreement. I mean, when we say student agreement, game jam agreement, that means actors working for free. And listen, we want to. There are so many cool games out there that, like, we were at GDC this past week, and there are so many independent developers out there, student developers that are making cool games.
Mhm.
And we're not over here twirling our mustaches, dastardly trying to figure out how we can steal money. We're like, man, we want to make stuff. We chose this career for a reason. It's a passion. It's a love. It's like, me personally, I'm obsessed. Like, this is what I want to do. And working with cool people, like when everybody's locked in and we're all like, oh man, we're making something. It's just, there's nothing else like it. So we want to say yes. And so having these interim agreements it's how we get to say yes in the interim.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that was perfect. All right. Question number 9 here is in regards to live service games, because I've noticed that it seems like when it comes to projects, there are project by project basis with the union, live service games are a tricky subject. So is it true that non-union voice actors are required to join the union after a certain number of projects that have signed the SAG-AFTRA interim agreement? And if so, why is it important that they be required to join the union?
Okay, so you're touching on our Taft-Hartley process, and I say our, but I say it really should be the country's Taft-Hartley
Yeah,
process because
yeah.
it's a
It's an
federal
old
law.
law. Yeah, old law too.
Yeah, so this is something SAG-AFTRA has to abide by, which is something that allows everyone to be involved in these projects, to be able to audition, to be able to be cast. So I'll lay out like a timeline for you for the Taft-Hartley. If you're someone who has not worked on a union project before, you're a non-union actor or a pre-member, we like to call it sometimes, and you're working on your craft, you get a chance to audition for something, and you book like World of Warcraft or something, very exciting. But you're not ready to join the union yet, for whatever reason. You can tell that production team or your agent or whoever is managing that you'd like to be Taft-Hartley'd. So this will let you be cleared for work on that project without having to worry about joining for whatever reason. At that point, you are now SAG eligible. You can join the union whenever you're ready. The next time you book a union project, after that, it doesn't matter how much space is in between that, just the next time you book a union project, you're going to become a must join. And if you are still like kind of like not ready to like pay that initiation fee, whatever the obstacle is, there's another kind of deferment called the OK30, where you'll have another month to kind of just do whatever. You don't have to join. You can work non-union, union jobs, whatever. There's that 30-day period. At the end of that point, that's when you become a must join, where you would not be cleared for work until you kind of make that commitment. And so the kind of philosophy behind that is, every person who works under a union contract is entitled to the benefits, is entitled to the health and pension, is entitled to the eventual AI protections, is entitled to, if you're on a motion capture set, breaks when you're from the More Perfect Union video you had played earlier. Andy Norris was talking about 8 hours on hands and legs. You need breaks built into that day. That's hard physical labor, and so it's essentially safety conditions that were dictating in the contract.
Having first aid available.
Set medics, all that stuff, because you can injure yourself. So all these things are dictated in the contract, and everybody who works under it is entitled to that. Creating those structures and those systems, It requires the hard work of our staff, who are people who are paid to work for the union. That is their salaried job. And paying them comes from our dues.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from our initiation fees, all those things. We benefit from these contracts because we buy into the union structure. And so the option to kind of ramp up your way into it through the Taft-Hartley, through the OK30, that's kind of, it's giving you time to think about, you know, where you're going in your career, all that stuff, so that you can pull the trigger to join when you're ready. You know, it's you don't have to do that until you are ready. There's also the FI-Corps option where you do join, but kind of declare FI-Corps so that you can still work on non-union jobs. If your career kind of looks like a lot of that work is coming from that place, that's an option as well. But yes, all that to say that eventually, yes, there is kind of a expectation that you start to support the thing that you're benefiting from.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
that to say, all that to say, no matter what your status is, you know, we're kind of facing an existential threat. So anyone who wants to like work in entertainment has to kind of take that consideration of that, like, your next job could be your last. So regardless of whether you're a pre-member, FI-Corps, union member, we have to kind of think about what it's going to take to get what we need in these contracts. Which is a long way of saying all that.
No, that was perfect. That's definitely why we're doing the interview, to be able to get those long-winded answers for sure.
Yeah.
Josh, did you have anything to add to that one?
No. What he said.
Perfect. All right. Next question, number 10 here. We got, what is SAG-AFTRA's Global Rule 1, and why is this rule so important for unions? Because just being someone who is in a union myself, I understand that even though it's not called Global Rule 1, we do have similar rules in our union as well.
Yeah. I'm going to use our official language. No member shall render any services or make an agreement to perform services for any employer who has not executed a basic minimum agreement with the union, which is in full force and effect in any jurisdiction in which there is a SAG-AFTRA national collective bargaining agreement in place. And this provision applies worldwide. Basically, the TLDR is, you are a SAG-AFTRA member, you only work on union jobs. It's important. The reason why it is important is just like what Torian just said. There are major benefits to having a union and to being a part of a union. And if you have members working off card, another word for saying that, there's an expectation that is set that makes it acceptable behavior, in a sense of like just everything that comes with being a union. You know, it's hard to put it down to. It's a system of accountability and responsibility, and making sure that we all keep each other honest, so to speak.
Trust between members.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things that it's like it sets the norm. And I think I'm repeating myself, but you know, setting expectations moving forward of what union membership looks like, what do our agreements look like, and maintaining that accountability long term.
It's also about our bargaining power. You know, when it comes time to, you know, we're at the end of our cycle and we want to negotiate for, you know, wages that match inflation. You want to negotiate for all the things you talked about in those wages and working conditions meeting. If the employer on the other side is like, well, I get people all the time non-union, so why would I bother engaging with you? So holding to Global Rule 1 is important for our own leverage in the bargaining room. Our most powerful tool as performers is being able to say no.
And even to our fellow performers, just it's going back to that accountability piece. It's not just for ourselves, it's for our colleagues, the people that we not necessarily work with. I mean, we do by extension, but you know, there's a certain amount of consideration for others that comes with Global Rule 1. It's
Mhm.
making sure that like you believe in the union.
Yeah, it's having solidarity with your fellow workers, right?
That, yeah.
All right. Well, that was pretty good, I think. The next one also has to do with global rule one here, and I have this one's so long I had to condense it on screen, but I have it a bit longer on my script here. Regarding the recent Hoyoverse projects such as Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and Zenless Zone Zero, I have heard that union VAs on these non-union projects, or that there were union VAs on these non-union projects, which would have been breaking SAG-AFTRA's Global Rule 1 prior to the industry strike. Is that true? Do you guys want to answer that real quick before the second part of this?
Yes, union actors working non-union games would be breaking Global Rule 1.
Mhm.
That is true. Uh,
And then, second part of this, and if so, how can both union and non-union voice actors return to work on previously cast roles on these projects? The person that asked this question said it seems like an unfortunate situation where Hoyoverse will be forced to recast either fully union or fully non-union.
I just want to say something a little. It might be a spicy opinion.
Mhm,
They're not forced to do anything.
mhm,
These are always choices that companies make. They can also choose the other side in which they decide to do under this agreement. To make the game under this agreement. Um,
and they have
sorry,
options too with the interim agreement too, right? And they're not
they
even signing
do,
that,
and
so
absolutely. Yeah, I think
I,
there's actually been a bit of an effort from some of those actors who, if you hear silence in those games, it's likely because those actors are trying to hold the line in solidarity with the union's labor action right
Some
now.
of them that, refuse to work too are non-union, as I understand, and they were just trying to hold solidarity, right?
Because it's a fight that affects all of us. And so
yeah,
I answered that first question a little flippantly, but we actually, it's Josh and I don't know who is what any person's status is on those titles. They could be union, they could be FICOR, where they actually are allowed to um, work union and non-union projects. We don't have that information on hand, and it's kind of like a personal thing for each
Mhm,
actor. But
yeah,
the
and
fact remains that yes, yeah.
I mean, there's a not to get too far into the weeds, but it's like there is a disciplinary committee. You know that it's not all. Unfortunately, it's not all sunshines and rainbows. It's there is discipline that comes with that kind of action, but it is. Just to continue the point, they're not forced to recast. They could go under a union contract. And the thing is it kind of when they don't, they state their intention.
mhm,
It's a very bold statement that which makes my heart hurt a little bit for actors that or even just anybody that defends this position or this is because this company, this employer has made their intentions clear by the actions that they take. They are telling you that in the future they want to have options
mhm,
to be able to, because all we're just asking for AI protections that are enforceable, transparency, compensation. These are things that many developers have been like. In fact, we heard one person go, "It just makes sense.
mhm,
It just makes sense. It doesn't take a lot of brain power to be like, oh yeah, this agreement makes sense." And so when this doesn't happen, it's so in terms of what the future looks like, it's really great to see non-union voice actors holding the line because just like Torian has said multiple times, this is an existential threat that goes beyond this strike.
mhm,
It is not, it is a right now because it hurts so hard right now. But there will come a day that this strike is over and where we're at depends on what we do now. And it will 100% affect everyone of every status.
mhm,
Even if we like, no matter what happens, I think we're gonna win. I do. I think human power is going to win. I think a lot more people as we continue going are seeing, oh, this is what this is about. Oh, because this doesn't just affect performers. It affects anybody of any crew of anything. And so going forward, it'll, I mean, we can't actually know the answers of what that's going to look like.
Mhm. There was someone at the end of that More Perfect Union video we watched too that said this strike is about really setting the foundation and setting the groundwork for future generations as well. Just to add to what you were
Absolutely.
saying for how
Absolutely.
important it is.
Absolutely.
This career can very quickly get very difficult to break into if the people who you want to work with kind of already have what they need
Mhm.
sitting in their voice bank.
Mhm.
I mean,
So
something crazy that, I mean, even if you go to our account, we have a breakdown of the current proposals as they look. I mean, there's a point in which, let's say a strike happens in the future. They want to be able to like use your digital model. So essentially your digital model is scabbing while the strike is going.
Yeah.
And it's like, ugh,
Yeah.
you know, it's like that's you can't even hold the line for yourself,
Mhm.
which is wild.
Mhm.
So
And
yeah,
you use the word scab there for just viewers that don't understand what that means. That's union talk. My union uses the phrase
that
as
is
well. If you
that
want
is a it's very important to define, because
what
there's
a scab
scabbing
is
and there's
exactly.
undermining. Yeah, because
Yeah.
undermining is you're not technically breaking the law. You're not
Mhm.
technically breaking. It's this. There's what's. Oh man, we're getting into the weeds, so I apologize.
No, you're good.
There are games that, but people have heard about this. There's games that are allowed to continue production. That's what is called side letter 6. It's something that's been in the contract for. It was a concession that was made years and years ago, and when the merger happened, it was something that kind of got grandfathered in, and it basically means that companies can continue to produce games. If they were in production before the strike continued, they can continue to produce those. That's a point of leverage. If we say no, those games can no longer continue producing. That is our leverage as performers, as humans. Scabbing is, a struck company makes a new game, and they're starting to audition and they're starting to cast, and those people just go in.
Mhm.
Right? I'm understanding that, right? Right?
Yeah,
It's
for
been quite the
Yeah,
it's been quite the point of contention for our
yeah,
community, unfortunately.
for
a lot of people do kind of focus on, which company is struck, which game is struck. The contract is struck.
Contract,
All
yeah.
our members use that contract. The only gray area, like Josh explained, is this side letter 6 situation. Everything outside of that, members should not be working on. If they were to, or even if a non-union or FICOR member were to jump into that otherwise struck project, that would be scabbing. But there are games that were already non-union for one reason or another that aren't technically struck because members shouldn't be working on them anyway. But if there's an effort to flip the game, if there's an effort to get those developers to see the benefits of that contract, and actors are organizing to try to do that, and people are still going in otherwise, even though it's technically legal, that could be an example of undermining that effort and making it harder to get what's otherwise a great benefit for the cast.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really well put. All right. Well, spent enough time on that one. I think that was a pretty long-winded one.
That's
Question
one of those
12.
ones that we were telling you that requires some
Long,
it
yeah.
requires some time and
Yeah.
massaging. Like
No simple answer, right?
yeah.
All right. Number 12 is I've read online that joining the SAG-AFTRA union is only beneficial to well-established actors, but is bad for rookies trying to land their first jobs. Is that true? And if not, how does the union help newer voice actors get more roles?
It is not true that the union is only good for well-established
Mhm.
folks. One thing that people might not know about our negotiations is that we are always negotiating for the minimums. What is the lowest amount this company can pay us for our session, for our work, what have you? These are the baselines. These are the lowest common denominator. People who names you might know, who might sound famous, or like, oh my gosh, they work all the time, they have the individual leverage to negotiate above those minimums. So the union particularly when it comes to negotiations, we're negotiating for people like Josh and I who are working for those minimums. I'd love to be able to negotiate above scale one day and be that kind of actor. But yeah, no,
Someday.
those actors, yeah, those big names that you might be familiar with, they've got their stuff handled. Not to say that they wouldn't benefit from, gains in the contract. Of course they would, but the minimums that we are arguing for are for the vast majority of actors like Josh and I and all the other workaday players that you see.
Mhm.
And I mean,
And there was another part to that question.
how does the union help newer VAs get more roles? And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Torian, but it's one of those things that it's not particularly up to the union
Mhm.
of what, because that has been a point of misinformation during a strike, I mean, even just being as a member. There is a misinformed thought that the union, our union's job is to get people work. It's not.
Mhm.
It's
The
not a
job,
part.
yeah.
It's not like that. It's not their. It's not the only thing that is their job to do. It's to protect. It's to protect the performers.
Mhm.
What would you say, Torian?
I mean, yeah, the work that we do and dictating the parameters around that, that's what SAG-AFTRA fights for, making sure we have, livable wages and safe working conditions. One way that the union can kind of create more work is by creating new avenues for companies to work with us. So like we
Yes.
explained, the interim agreements, the tiered budget
Like
agreement,
in
so that at
jam
different
students.
budget levels you
Yeah.
can still work with union actors, game jam, student waiver, all these different ways.
Because there's so many opportunities online. If you even just, I mean, I don't use it anymore, but the platform formerly known as Twitter, I mean, that used to be like a great resource for casting announcements, or not announcements, but casting calls. There are so many great independent creators out there. And so, yeah, actually, I'm so glad to be corrected in this, that these kinds of agreements, they do actually, because at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want all performers to be able to have these rights, to have these protections. And so creating more access and accessibility allows for there to be more projects even available for performers to be on a union contract, to know that they have the security of what we're asking for.
Mhm. And just
Sorry,
like
I felt
Torian said,
obligated to take that over.
no, you're good. And just like Torian said earlier too, you guys are just fighting for the minimum too. So in regards to like how newer VAs can, it maybe not necessarily helps them get roles, but when they do get roles, they understand that there's a minimum amount of protections that they are granted by the union, right? By taking on a union contract.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yes.
So only two more. Question 13 here is many online have pointed out that only the United States seems to be striking in regards to AI protections. Why is that? Is there anything unique about US labor laws or worker protections regarding unauthorized use of AI voices?
You got that?
Yeah, this is a global thing. As much as like SAG-AFTRA is the one on strike, there are performers everywhere who, are facing the same kind of issues. And so in a sense, a lot of people are looking to SAG-AFTRA. We happen to have a contract cycle come up where we can negotiate and have a strike, just lined up that way. Not every country has the same labor laws where they can strike. England is an example of this, where there are very restrictive laws surrounding labor action and organizing. All the same, that hasn't stopped people in like France, for example, from just saying no, holding their own pickets, holding their own like days of not working. There is labor action happening globally in a lot of different places. SAG-AFTRA just happens to be the one officially on strike. And a lot of our national laws do support that. We are entitled to organizing and striking. Those are things that we have to be able to do as workers, which I'm very grateful for. But that's not to say that we are the only ones that kind of like care about
Fighting
this
back
in other
against this,
places.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are saying it's really been it's been so wonderful to see that there is a global effort happening. It may not be like the way that we see it, where it's like we are on strike, but there are actors that are standing in solidarity all over the world saying no, and it's inspiring. I mean, France has revolution on lock.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I mean, France, I mean, there are actors saying no in the UK. There are actors that are standing in solidarity all over the world because it does affect everybody.
And so it would be fair to say that the idea that it's only the US standing up against this is a piece of misinformation, right? Because I know myself, I've seen people of other countries standing up as well. And not just for AI protections, but there's unions, labor unions, trade unions, and strikers everywhere in large parts of Europe.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I forget
Yeah.
what title it was, but there was something recently released with none of its Spanish VO. Like all those actors were like, no, we're not doing this because we need, better
Yeah.
protections. And so it's people are paying attention globally. And
And devs are paying attention to that because they want. It's something that I learned even at GDC. I didn't realize that, like, let's take. I'm not even gonna. I don't need titles, but just any game that has a character is released for it. That character, every time there's a new character that is added to the docket, that character had a writer that went into the process of creating it, writing its backstory, designing its moves, designing its powers, all of that kind of stuff. And then they go into the casting process, and that's a very selective process for them because they've been working on this character for months, maybe even years, and they have a vision for this character, and then they find their actor. They find them. And they embody this character. It's like, I've talked to writers who have been like, man, when they get to see their thing, like, it's a living thing on stage, on screen, on in a game. It's magic. And so when they find that their character is being recast, it's a big deal for them. It's a very big deal for full dev teams when somebody is recast. It's like, you've changed it. You've changed this thing that we've created. And so it
speaks to the point of, like, what we find, what we certainly found at GDC, but what we find overall throughout this is that our collaborators, the game developers, the directors, the writers, the artists who actually make the product, all want to work with us. All are like, yeah, this makes sense. There's a lot of corporate constraints coming from above that are like, well, I guess we have to recast because so-and-so doesn't want to sign the interim, which hurts for everybody. But I think it's important to remember that, us and our dev collaborators are very much kind of on the same page. And particularly with the latest news from GDC about United Video Game Workers is a new kind of national union for game devs who have been getting laid off week after week for the past year and a half.
They've needed a union for a long time, that's for sure.
It's insane. And so a lot of that work has been happening behind the scenes, and they made a big announcement at GDC. I'm so excited because it's a chance for kind of like the cross-pollination between unions now. We don't always get to talk to our game dev collaborators outside of the session. But with at the union level, the sister union level, that's something I'm really excited about getting to do more of.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And to just add to the closing thoughts of this question in particular, in regards to why the person that submitted this question thinks that maybe only people in the US have, a large part of that could be because of just media not covering strikes in particular. That you never see that ever. More Perfect Union is a YouTube channel that I like a lot because they do cover a lot of strikes all over the nation, but mainstream media doesn't cover any of that whatsoever. You never see them talking to strikers, and anytime they do, it's almost always in a negative light, right? And so,
Follow More Perfect Union, follow Game Performance Matters. If
mhm,
you want strike news, we do kind of whenever stuff comes on our radar from other countries, other locals, we're always like, yeah, this is happening. Everyone's paying attention. So
mhm,
we try to like be very loud about strike updates.
awesome, yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Final question, and this one's a bit of a doozy. It takes up so much on the screen there. All right, final question. A popular critique I've seen online is that SAG-AFTRA wants to monopolize the actor market by using AI protections as a scapegoat to force the entire industry to comply with them. They claim that SAG-AFTRA will make it harder for non-union voice actors to find work in the future. What is the union's true long-term goal, and how does it help the industry regarding smaller projects and rookie actors who can't join the union?
Um,
You've caught us.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
The evil scheme.
we read this question, and I'm really sorry, but there was a moment where I was like, maybe I should dress up here with like a twirled mustache and like Dudley Do-Right, and just like, they finally caught us. What do we say here? The thing is that is not the case. AI protections is, and we've said it so many times throughout this, is that it's not just an us thing. It's not just, it doesn't matter union status. And that's the thing that I've been thinking a lot about lately, is that we just happen to be the channel for it right now. We just happen to be the one that's on strike. We just happen to have official channels that we can take to bring this to the attention of the public and to have a strike, to hold pickets, to do this kind of labor action. We just happen to have that official way to do it. What would non-union do? So we get to be here and do this. Like our true long-term goal is for everyone to feel safe and working and just a sustainable industry, because the industry as a whole, doesn't matter whether you're talking about movies, TV, video games, is imploding. The entire industry is imploding, and we still don't know how it's going to land. And so what we have to do is we have to take action as it comes. And what we do now speaks volumes and continues into the future, not only for us as performers. I also have a career as an audio engineer. And so when I think about the landscape that is development or production, if you replace performers, you start replacing engineers, you start replacing editors, you start replacing anybody that could be involved in that session. You barely need front desk. You barely need scheduling. You barely need those kinds of things. Because there are no sessions happening. If you want to just replace all actors, you barely need other people in the pipeline to do it. And so our true goal is a sustainable industry, a sustainable career as performers. And listen, this goes towards non-union as well. This goes towards FICOR. This will, we've said this many times over the course of these 8 months. What we get, a lot of people will get.
Yeah.
Because we are the example now. And that, just like you mentioned, other unions, I personally believe that what we're doing is going to speak volumes to other industry unions. Because AI does not just affect performers. We're just first on the radar. We are just first. It'll come for legal. It'll come for medical. It'll come for any which way that it can. And so it's important for us to not only for ourselves and for our fellow performers, no matter the status. That's the other thing about this, is that you see online, is that, and this is what they want us to be fighting each other.
Yeah.
They want us to be going head to head, being like, well, you're non-union and I don't care about you. Well, you're union and you don't care about me. That doesn't matter. This is huge. This matters to everybody. So our true long-term goal is that everybody has a sustainable career and that we can, make money doing this.
Mm-hmm.
We all should be.
Yeah.
Performers are labor employees. You are workers. You have that was one of the first things that I learned from acting school is that you're a business. As a performer, you are a business, and unfortunately there is if you don't learn that aspect, you think that yes, performing should be play, it should be fun. But then there comes a point where you need to understand that it's also business. And so this is the unfortunate business part about it, where it's like we need to make sure that we are protecting everybody moving forward. And we've already answered kind of the idea of industry regarding smaller projects and rookie actors. There are more ways to say yes now.
Yeah.
And we want everybody to be able to go into work and understand that they are secure in what they are bringing to the project, their voice, their talent, their humanness. They're bringing it to the microphone, to the camera, to the stage. I mean, this is for voiceover, but it's there are a lot of other agreements that we need that need to be negotiated. And so it's like this right now has nothing to do whether union or non-union. This is to lay down the proverbial law going forward so that everybody, because I mean, here's the other thing. If we do want to break it down, I'm so sorry to just keep bogarting
keep
the
going.
microphone. More 9 times out of 10 in my experience, I've been in the industry for a pretty good time, and my wife, she was in the industry before that. A large percentage of the time, what happens in the union space will trickle or will affect the non-union space.
Yeah.
And maybe not as much, maybe not as the minimums that we build, but there will be a domino effect that will affect a lot just on this. This is why we're fighting so hard. And this is why we are willing to, I've booked very little. I don't mind putting that out there. I'm going to say this right now. I've booked very little over in the past 8 months. It's been very hard, but I know that I'm not alone. There are a lot of people that it's hard for them right now, but it's important. It is important because if we don't, this industry as it stands, as we see it, video games will cease to be as we know them. And I'm not willing to be a part of that. If that makes sense. Of just like,
absolutely.
Video games have affected me in such a way that I cannot imagine humans not being a part of it. My heart can't. My heart can't. So, I don't know. Did I answer that? Was that okay?
No, that was perfect. Torian, did you have anything to add to that
I
one?
got nothing to add to
Nothing?
that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
And
that
scene.
was it. Yeah, that was it. I've got a little bit of my closing thoughts here, but that was the last of the questions. To end off the interview, I just wanted to say, obviously, the main reason I did all this was because I was hoping to educate my audience a bit, hopefully put some of those rumors floating around online to bed, and of course, humanize your movement, because unfortunately, not everyone sees unions as inherently good. You know, when workers of any industry get more power, not just actors, not just the video game industry, but trade unions. There's been more and more new unions popping up. I know Amazon has a new union. I know that Starbucks has a new union. And so when any workers of any industry get more power, there's always going to be an amount of public backlash because of the unfortunate inconveniences that growing labor power can cause. Due to withholding our labor as workers is the only actual power we can use, it's going to cause some inconveniences. And so, of course, myself and you guys are doing our part in trying to spread this message about why that growing labor power is a good thing, not just so actors can get AI protections, but also for any worker of any industry to have job security, good retirement plans, good health care, and careers that they can comfortably live on. There's a lot of amazing labor history in this country that I don't think is talked about enough. Even things we take for granted, like the concept of a weekend, 8-hour shifts, 40-hour work weeks, were fought by labor unions of the past. These are things that weren't just kindly given to us, right? So the point is, I just wanted y'all to know that I'm personally rooting for you guys. It's really important work that you're doing, and I'm going to continue to do whatever I can to cover and support your movement. But those were my closing thoughts. Before we end things here, is there anything you guys wanted to add?
I thought we both cocked our heads the same.
You can tell we're friends.
I think a lot of people, they hear about what's going on and they start to get it and they're like, how can I help? What can I do? I feel like there's so little as an individual that I have the power to do. And I would say, being present here is 100% a step forward. Learning about what's going on, being able to share that in your own networks, spread the word. Again, I'm gonna plug us again. Follow Game Performance Matters. That's a place that you can, like, on your own time, get more information. iMaximizing is doing a great job of promoting what's going on. So, like, find those points of information in your networks, in your circle, and let people know just how important this is. Like Josh said, we're kind of like the first ones at bat to kind of figure out how this is all going to work. It's unprecedented. We don't necessarily know what's the best way to do it, but we're trying our hardest to make sure it's safe, and it's going to have ripple effects. So it's important that we have as much support as possible, so that we can pull out a win.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I would add, what I tell anybody is just don't forget how strong you are. Don't forget how powerful you are and what you are capable of. Oftentimes people think that, and they have these quantifiers, qualifiers, whatever, that are based on their surroundings, based on nature, nurture, whatever, that they think that, well, I can't get involved. I can't. I mean, even if you're not an actor, even if you're not involved in this industry, if you're a gamer and you want to get involved, let's do this. Like, if you care about people, let's do this. Let's do this. Like, you can do it. It doesn't mean that it's easy, but again, don't forget how strong you are.
And
you can get a lot done.
Everybody loves a boycott, but maybe instead of, like, I'm never playing this game again, maybe reach out to the developer and see, like, hey, could you guys think about signing an interim?
Yep.
I want to hear my favorite characters again.
And Hoyo in particular, I know, does surveys every now and then. The last one they did, I put that in the survey. I said, hey, can you sign the interim? Because that helps them out. And
my gosh.
Yeah. Huge thing there.
That's great. Because they need
making your voice known. Yeah,
Even
they think that gamers don't know. That I think they are banking on the idea that gamers do not know. They're not going to know or care enough that their games are AI based. They're not going to care that the writing is AI, that the visuals are AI, that the acting is AI. They're not going to care. That's what they think. They've made it very clear that that's what they think, that gamers are, I don't know if there's for lack of a better term,
just
dumb.
Money machines.
Yeah.
Money machines. They are just, they are uneducated. That they are uneducated and that they have no true trustable opinion. But I think that is so not the case. I think gamers are a bunch of socialists that don't want the man to take over the things that they love. And they're going to be like, wait a minute, you're bringing down the downtrodden? No, sir. No, sir. So it's like, I think gamers unite, like, stand up, make your voice known, take the surveys, come to the pickets if you're local or like whatever. Like, if you support the unions, like, make your voices known.
Absolutely. That was perfect. All right. Is there, what can I put in the description of this video when it goes up on my VOD YouTube channel for you guys that, like, obviously Game Performance Matters. Do you guys want your personal social media in there at all?
I mean, you can. I'm Joshua Sterling VO. I mainly do Instagram. That's like my main platform. So Joshua Sterling VO on Instagram.
Okay.
If you want to follow my personal VO career, I'd much prefer you follow GPM to get strike updates, where you'll probably find me as well. But yeah, at TBVO for all things Torian.
Okay.
And then at Game Performance Matters on everything except for Blue Sky. Blue Sky is, I believe, GPM official.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and I know you guys have a link that has all the links, and so I'll be sure to include that in there.
Yes.
Yeah, the link tree. Yeah, for
that.
sure. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being on. Originally, this interview was supposed to be just 20, 30 minutes, and these guys themselves were like, actually, these questions are gonna need a little longer. And I was like, well, would you guys be willing to do a little longer? And they were like, yeah, for sure. Whatever it takes to answer these questions. So thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to be here and answer not just my questions, but a lot of those questions were my community's. So they got their questions answered, so that was huge, absolutely. So thank you guys so much. All right, I will have to talk to you guys later. Hopefully the strike ends soon, but in the future, we'll see if we can get you guys on, right? All right.
Yeah.
Until next time. Thanks so much for having us.
Bye, guys.
Yes, thank you.
All right, chat. That was it. I hope you guys enjoyed that. This is going to be going up on YouTube, of course, so you guys can leave your comments down in the comment section below. Leave a like, of course, is greatly appreciated. And if any of those questions had answers that you think friends of yours might enjoy, please spread the video around and get some of that information more out there for sure. Any closing thoughts I have for the stream? Not really. Pretty sure we said our piece. But yeah, thank you guys all for coming out, viewers and VOD watchers on YouTube. Appreciate you as well. But I'm gonna play this More Perfect Union video one more time.
We are at Gate 5 at Warner Brothers here in Los Angeles, and we are picketing against video game employers.
No contract, no ease.
This is our first day of picketing on this strike. We are fighting a battle that goes beyond just this one contract or even just our own membership, because AI is going to affect all of us.
Video game performers tend to work in the closet in small little spaces, so when you let us out here, we get really rabid. It's great to see each other. It's great to support each other.
Video game performers do the voice acting, motion capture, and inspire characters for the world's biggest video games: Call of Duty, Final Fantasy, Fortnite, and more.
They come to us to ask how heroes sound and what they look like and what they do, and we're gonna show them.
They're striking 10 video game studios and production companies, because after 2 years of contract negotiations, they still can't agree on artificial intelligence protections.
A very small number of very large corporations are holding the entire industry hostage.
I was Donna Beneviento in Resident Evil Village. I did most of the body capture for the women in Immortals of Avium. I am the Rancor in Star Wars Vader Immortals, so if you played that, you definitely had to kill me. So when I'm crawling around on the ground for 8 hours a day creating these monsters that you have to fight, they are telling me that I am not a performer, that all I am is data. So what they intend to do is take our data, make a model out of it, and then they use that model instead of us.
The basic protections we're looking for are when they use any kind of digital replication of a performer's voice, their face, their movement, that they have the right to say yes or no to that, and they have the right to be compensated for that.
Imagine a situation where there's an avatar of you that can say things that you never consented to say and that you're never compensated for. That's a really dangerous environment, not only for performers, but for the general public at large.
I also worry that AI could make it where existing, talented, established artists have to compete against their own digital replica for work.
You come to me, you tell me what you intend to do, you get my permission, you pay me. That's fair, it allows the use of this tool, it's reasonable, it's feasible. We have employers signing those agreements that have those terms exactly as they are for much, much lower budgets than the folks like here.
In terms of the compensation factors, we haven't even really fully explored that because they haven't agreed to the consent provisions yet for all of the performers that we need to. So, from their point of view, if they don't need to get consent, they don't have to compensate.
One day longer, one day stronger! Woo! Thank you. I'm a performance capture artist. I work in video games doing flips and tricks and getting beaten up and all the fun stuff.
Great thing about what we do is that a lot of actors, a lot of performers can come together to create a perfect character. So that being said, I had a hand in these characters. Spider-Man, Venom, Rhino, Vulture, Electro, Shocker, Scorpion, Aunt May. Every single civilian on the ground level, every single goon you beat up, I have had a hand in bringing those people to life.
Being able to do a backflip is one thing. Being able to do a backflip on command is another thing. Being able to do a backflip on command in different ways, landing on a certain object, going across a gap, augmenting the way I do my tricks to make it look like somebody who has just gotten superpowers for the first time. We aren't even saying that these companies can't use AI. What we're asking for is that if they are going to use me, that I get paid for it.
The AAA company video games make so much money that it dwarfs TV, film, and music combined. And we are just asking for enough to cover our rent.
A report in March by the game engine company Unity found that 62% of video game studios were already using AI, largely for world building, prototyping, and coding. 46% of engineers are also starting to use it for character animation.
This fight isn't against the people that we work with day in and day out. It's not the animators, it's not the directors, it's not the people that we make these genuine connections with making these beautiful games. It's the people who want to sit in an office and count their dollar bills that want to tell you what you do and assign the value of what you do.
The most frustrating aspect of this negotiation, not just for us, but for everybody in general, is the lack of respect that's shown to a human being by a corporation. We won AI protections in TV theatrical, we refined them in animation, we have to build upon them in interactive, because AI protections aren't going to reach through to everyone.
It could very well potentially replace us. And I don't say us, the entertainment union, I mean us, labor, workers. We're the canary in the coal mine. We have to fight it so that the next union who feels threatened by it, they have a framework to stand on.
We have to win this fight to set the precedent for the workforce at large.
And we'll be out here doing this until we have a fair contract.
All right, that was More Perfect Union. I like their videos a lot. I've been following them for years. They cover strikes all over the country. So because a little bit of what we talked about there was that mainstream media doesn't talk about strikes nearly enough. And usually when they do, it's in a negative context or a negative light about how it affects the economy or how it affects the market, right? It's usually never talking about what the workers are actually fighting for, which is what the important thing is, right? So, closing thoughts. Thank you, everyone watching the YouTube VOD. Appreciate it. Leave a like and a comment down below if you enjoyed, and spread the video around if you think that the answers that some of the questions or answers other people that you know might find use or might expand their knowledge of it. Definitely send it out to people. People could listen to it as a podcast if they want to. All sorts of stuff. But yeah, the main reason we did this was just to try to educate people a lot more and try to make what they're fighting for well known, because like I said, there's a lot of rumors, misinformation, and stuff like that going around online, and so was trying to just do my part in making sure that the games that I enjoy still have human voice actors behind it that a lot of them bring to life the games themselves. I don't want them to be replaced by AI, right? So thank you all so much for watching. Appreciate it. And we will, my stream is sporadically losing a connection. Not good. I'm glad that didn't happen during the interview though. All right. Thank you so much for hanging, everybody. We will catch you guys in the next stream, whenever that is. But yeah, I will see you later, and take care. Bye-bye.